Get up, Ames! It's game day! Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, bringing you some of the best college football news, predictions, and analysis. And as always, hit that like button, go follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Gridiron Expert, and of course check out our official website, thegridironexpert.com, where you can get our weekly newsletter and also sign up for our expert picks, where for just $30 you will receive every single one of our 2019 college football spread picks, including the postseason. And we are off to a fantastic start to this season, and I can promise you, you do not want to miss out on this extra content and this great opportunity. Well, Cyclone fans, are you ready? For the first time ever, College GameDay is coming to Ames, Iowa, as number 19 Iowa travels to Iowa State in a big-time rivalry game that, in my opinion, is one of the more underrated in the entire nation. And we're going to break down this entire game. The excitement, I know, is high in Ames. It's a very, very big deal and a major game that, of course, does not have any conference implications for either team. But, of course, when you have a rivalry game, what do? We throw records out the window. And that's exactly what both these teams will be doing in what should be a thrilling matchup on Saturday afternoon. We're going to break down this entire game. Who's going to win? How are they going to do it? And, of course, a little bit of background on this rivalry game. Now, of course, these two teams have met every single year since 1977, but the series has been very lopsided. We're entering the 67th meeting this year, and Iowa leads the series 44-22 over the Cyclones. They have won the past 4 games over Iowa State by an average of 16.5 points per game. So there are some questions, of course, of whether or not the Cyclones can snap this streak to the Hawkeyes. Now, of course, 2 years ago in Ames, they nearly snapped a very small losing streak, narrowly losing to Iowa 44-41 in overtime. They should have probably won that game. They were not able to close it out. Can they do it this year? Iowa won 15 straight games from 1983 to 1997, and since 2010, Iowa State is just 3-6 against the Hawkeyes. So obviously, like I said, Iowa has dominated this series against their interstate rivals. But maybe the script will be flipped in 2019. We're going to start with the quarterbacks. Obviously the most important position on the field, and 2 big-name quarterbacks going at it on the gridiron this Saturday. We'll start with Iowa State, bringing in sophomore quarterback Brock Purdy, who was kind of thrusted onto the scene last year. Iowa State, I can't even remember the last time they had a quarterback that played every single game for them. Hopefully that will be changed this year if Brock Purdy can stay healthy. He threw for over 2,200 yards last season for the Cyclones, had 16 touchdowns, and rushed for 5 more touchdowns. So he does have a little bit of a dual threat capability. He has a great core of wide receivers going for him in this game against Iowa. He has Deshaunte Jones, who had 14 receptions and 126 yards in that narrow victory over Northern Iowa in Week 1. Of course, the Cyclones barely escaping 29-26 in 3 overtimes. So a very concerning game for the Cyclones to open up the season. But as we've said before, teams usually struggle in Week 1 and tend to get better by Week 2. Iowa State owns the advantage because they didn't even play in Week 2. They are coming off a bye week entering this game against the Hawkeyes. And to me, that's an even bigger benefit and a bigger advantage for the Cyclones in this game. On top of Deshaunte Jones, Purdy also has LaMichael Petway, who we saw make an immediate impact in Week 1. Of course, Petway transferring over from Arkansas. For Iowa, they have a guy named Nate Stanley, one of the better quarterbacks in the entire Big Ten. This is last year with the Hawkeyes, and last year he threw for over 2,800 yards and 26 touchdowns. This season, he's off to a fantastic start, already throwing for 488 yards and 6 touchdowns, and had himself a 3-touchdown performance in their 30-0 shutout win over Rutgers. So Iowa getting an early Big Ten game on their schedule, Iowa State getting an early bye week on their schedule. Both teams, both of those, in my opinion, benefits and advantages going into this rivalry game. For Iowa, their offense, especially their passing attack, hasn't clearly taken a major step back. It still remains fairly potent despite losing T.J. Hawkinson, Noah Fant, and Nick Easley from that team that they had in 2018. But Nate Stanley is building great chemistry with his wide receivers and tight ends this season, and Kirk Ferentz' offense really has not missed a beat as 2019 continues to progress. This game, outside of the quarterbacks, though, I think will be won in the trenches. Both teams have very experienced offensive lines and very experienced defensive lines and linebackers. And we'll start with Iowa here, who returns 3 offensive linemen from their team in 2018. That's 54 combined career starts. Maybe some more if you tack on the 2 games that they had this past couple weeks. So that's going to be a benefit going up against an Iowa State defensive line that, of course, will be led by Ray Lima and Jaquan Bailey, and also have Greg Eisworth, the leading tackler from Iowa State last year, and Marcel Spears at linebacker. So this Iowa State defense that returns 8 total starters from 2018 is going to be very, very dangerous and very, very tough for any offensive line to stop, let alone Iowa's, who still has a little bit of inexperience there. For Iowa State, they return all 5 of their offensive linemen. That is huge for the Cyclones. That is huge, not just for this game against Iowa, but huge for them if they want to meet their goals of making the Big 12 championship game and maybe even winning the entire Big 12. That's 114 combined career starts. Once again, maybe some more if you tack on those 2 or that lone game against Northern Iowa back in week 1. But they're going up against what some consider to be maybe one of the best defensive players in all of college football, A.J. Epinesa over at Iowa, who last season had 10.5 sacks for the Hawkeyes. But he's off to a fairly slow start in 2019. Only 4 tackles and 1 sack in Iowa's wins against Miami, Ohio, and then, of course, Rutgers last week. So who's going to be able to generate the most pressure? Both of these teams have veteran offensive lines. Of course, Iowa State owning that edge there. A.J. Epinesa, regarded as one of the better defensive linemen in all of college football. But will he be able to break through this very veteran Iowa State offensive line that returns all their starters from last year? He certainly cannot do it alone. He's going to have some help from the rest of the Iowa defense. I believe that not only does Iowa State own the advantage at wide receiver, they own the advantage at the offensive line position, and they own the advantage on the defensive side of the ball. Iowa, of course, I believe owning the edge at quarterback. I believe Nate Stanley, experience-wise, owning the edge over Brock Purdy. Both impressive, but based on experience and based on performances from last year, I give Nate Stanley the slight edge at quarterback for the Hawkeyes. So what is going to be the key for the Hawkeyes and the Cyclones in this game? How will one of these teams escape Ames with a victory? Will Iowa State snap their 4-game losing streak to the Hawkeyes, or will the Hawkeyes push it to 5 straight over their in-state rivals? The key for both teams is, of course, to get balanced. We talked so much about their passing game that we didn't really talk much about their run game. And they're going to have to utilize the run game to generate balance offensively and take the pressure off of Stanley and take the pressure off of Purdy. If they cannot do that, both defenses will hone in on the pass, and it can be a very long and low-scoring game, much like it was last year as Iowa won 13-3. Fairly low-scoring, fairly boring game, in my opinion. Iowa owns the edge, rushing-wise. They own the edge at the running back position, and maybe that could be the difference maker in this game. They have Mekhi Sargent, who had rushed for over 745 yards last year and 9 touchdowns. This year, he's already averaging 5.5 yards per carry, a very impressive stat. Will he fare well against a very dominant Iowa State defensive line? Now, the Cyclones, needless to say, have a fairly capable running backs. They have Johnny Lang and Sheldon Croney, but neither looked impressive against Northern Iowa. With the amount of times that Iowa State ran the ball against Northern Iowa, neither looked that impressive. Lang was the leading rusher with just 60 yards on the day. Croney right behind him with, I believe it was 57. So neither looking that impressive against a solid FCS opponent, but needless to say, can they go up against this Iowa defensive line and generate enough rushing power to take the edge off of Purdy? Iowa will be able to give their quarterback a little bit of rest. They will be able to take that edge off of Stanley, but it's not going to be enough. Iowa State will win this game in Ames, at home, and snap their 4-game losing streak to the Hawkeyes. Why? How? Well, we mentioned just everything that we just gave you. But here are the overlying factors that, to me, will give Iowa State the extra push, the extra advantage over the Hawkeyes. First off, it's the bye week. While Iowa has cruised to victories over Miami, Ohio, and, of course, Rutgers, so neither of those being close games, starters are getting rested, They have played 2 straight games, and some can say that's a benefit. They're getting hot. They're looking good. They don't want to break. But Iowa State looked very unimpressive against Northern Iowa. Now they get a bye week going into arguably one of the bigger games on their schedule this season. Yes, it is not a conference game, but it is still a rivalry game, and you know they are hungry to snap that losing streak. A week of rest gives them an opportunity to fix the issues that they had against Northern Iowa and just continue to think about this game against the Hawkeyes. I think Matt Campbell has his team ready to go and has been prepping this team for 2 weeks now to come in and defeat the Hawkeyes. Additionally, home field advantage. I have said over and over again that I believe Ames is one of the most difficult places to play, not just in the Big 12, but also in all of college football. We saw it back when Iowa State wasn't that good, and we've seen it even more so now that Matt Campbell has rejuvenated and rebuilt this program. And the last factor, of course, I'm sure many of you know what it is, it's College GameDay. Teams don't want to have a letdown when College GameDay comes to your city. When they come to your city, you want to show up and show out. Iowa State will absolutely do that. No team wants to lose when game day is there, but you certainly don't want to lose when they come for the first time ever. This game reminds me a lot of what happened last year. Game day went to Pullman, Washington. They went to Washington State for the first time ever. You see Old Crimson hanging out at every single College GameDay broadcast. It's there, the Washington State flag. And they had never gone until last year. And when they did, Washington State annihilated Oregon. I believe they were number 12 in the nation at the time. It was the 12th ranked Ducks and the 25th ranked Cougars, and they annihilated them. And I think Iowa State will have that energy and have that pressure to show up with College GameDay there. They're not going to annihilate Iowa, but they will get a victory, and they will snap that 4-game losing streak to the Hawkeyes and once again show that they are Big 12 title contenders. I know it's not a conference game, but starting off 2-0 with a quality win over a ranked opponent will show they are legit, and a lot of things have changed in 2 weeks after that narrow victory over Northern Iowa. But regardless, this week in Ames is the best game of the week. It will be the best game of the week. That's why game day is there. That's why we're talking about it. That's why it was on our big board, and you are certainly not going to want to miss it. But Iowa State defeats the Hawkeyes, snapping that 4-game losing streak. So guys, thank you for watching us here on YouTube. Go check us out on Twitter and Instagram at Gridiron Expert. And of course, go check out our official website, thegridironexpert.com, where you can sign up for our weekly newsletter and sign up for our expert picks, where for just $30, you will receive every single one of our 2019 college football spread picks, including the postseason. And we are doing extremely well right now, 65% against the spread. I can promise you, you're not going to want to miss out on this opportunity. So go sign up today. The link's in the description below. And once again, thank you for watching us here on YouTube. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe. And we will see you next time on The Gridiron Expert.